Roger Griffiths here, the publisher of The Hub. Welcome to this continuing series on our YouTube channel and website, Trump's Tariff War. Each and every day, we're bringing you videos from experts around Canada and the world, reflecting on this extraordinary moment that our country finds itself in, and hopefully providing you with some new analysis and insights. Very grateful to have on the program Tim Sargent. He's the Director of Domestic Policies, all things Canada, at the Macdonald-Laurier Institute. Tim, welcome to the program.
Thanks for having me.
You had a great piece in the Hub today, just kind of setting out the news over the weekend that President Trump is now moving on to possibly aluminum and steel tariffs globally, but these will be levied on Canada and levied at a significant amount, fully 25% if all this comes to pass. Unpack for us your thoughts about how important this kind of targeted sectoral tariff is and its potential impact on Canada and the United States.
So this is very much part of the Trump playbook. We saw this in his first term. We saw a similar 25% tariff on steel and only 10% at that time on aluminum, not just on Canada, but a whole bunch of other countries. So this is very much part of Trump's modus operandi. He looks for sectors that matter to him politically, and tariffs are his chosen weapon to deal with that. He looks for sectors where there's a trade deficit. He sees that as losing if the US has a trade deficit. And so he likes to strike on those particular sectors. For Canada, I think it's going to differ quite a bit in steel versus aluminum. For aluminum, I mean, the US imports the vast majority of its aluminum. They don't have really many domestic sources of supply. Aluminum comes from Canada because we have hydroelectricity, which is really, really cheap, and you need a lot of electricity to make aluminum. So I think that one, US consumers will pay the freight. I think one reason why it was only 10% last time is there was some awareness that the Canadians can just charge more for this. Steel is going to be tougher for us. There are some domestic sources of US supply. But even then, I think what we're going to really see is just see increases in prices for consumers. In 2018, that's pretty much what we saw as well. Nobody's going to build a new steel plant straight away or even add significant capacity. So again, the production of steel will probably remain quite similar, but just prices will rise for end users. And those end users include US auto manufacturers. So ironically, we're actually going to see it be more expensive to produce a car in the United States because they've made steel more expensive than it would be in Canada.
Let's focus a little bit on aluminum, because Canada really has a disproportionate production capacity vis-a-vis the world and specifically the United States. Your article mentions some numbers, Tim, and share those with us. And again, the sense that the United States in this case is really cutting off its nose to save its face here. I mean, it does not have its own domestic aluminum production, does it, Tim, and anything near the quantities that it needs?
That's right. It gets 82% of its aluminum from foreign suppliers. Not just Canada, there are a few other countries in the mix as well, but we're the most important, and of course we're very close to them as well. And aluminum is an important product. It's used not just in the auto sector, it's actually used quite a lot in the defense sector as well. So I don't think the Americans have maybe thought this one through very much. I think there is maybe one aluminum smelter in the US, in Kentucky. That's probably why I think aluminum was included last time around, because Mitch McConnell, who's of course the leader of the Republicans in the Senate, is from Kentucky. But this time around, it's just really not obvious to me why they're going after aluminum. Again, I think it's just muscle memory from the last trade dispute.
As I understand it, you're right, Tim. There's one smelter. It's 100-odd years old in the United States. If you were trying to make sense of this, what is Trump trying to do here? Because, I mean, building new smelters is not something that might even be accomplished in the 4 years of his government. I mean, these are big, capital-intensive, complex projects. So if you were trying to think this through, could there be a rationale behind this? Or simply is he just trying to send another message?
It's very confusing. I mean, it's not as if the aluminum sector is going to employ many jobs. It's basically a very capital intensive, very energy intensive industry. So if this is about restoring, blue collar jobs in working class communities across the Midwest, this really isn't going to cut it. Even the broader steel sector, I think it's unlikely we're going to see a huge manufacturing renaissance based on these tariffs. And normally, if you're going to do tariffs, don't do it on intermediate inputs. Don't do it on things that your firms are actually buying
Right.
in order to produce stuff. I mean, if you're going to do tariffs in order to rebuild manufacturing, do it on the end products. Do it on foreign cars coming in that are competing with cars produced in America.
Yeah, kind of dumb as a bag of hammers. Um, does this create some opportunities for us, Tim, with the threat of a 30-day ceasefire is winding down? We there could be something, and at that time we don't know. This president is so erratic, but we do know come April that his officials will be back to him with a larger global plan on trade. How might we use steel and especially aluminum to our advantage in future negotiations? Because it does seem bound up in, especially aluminum, in American security concerns.
Mm-hmm.
If you were worried about, your American military industrial defense complex, you'd want a safe, secure, and hopefully relatively cost-effective supply of aluminum, not something that cost you 25% more than it did yesterday.
Yes, we have to turn a narrow economic or trade conversation into a broader defense, security, foreign policy, energy security conversation, and just point out the advantages for the US of having a partner like Canada who can feed into their defense industrial base, who's basically a key supplier. Normally, they shouldn't be seeing Canada necessarily as a competitor. Rather, we've got things that they don't have in abundance or that they can't produce as cheaply as we can. And so we're a key partner of their defense industrial complex. And of course, this has been true since World War II and even before that.
Yeah. So, Tim, just to wrap up here, your article sets out a whole bunch of potential, reforms that Canada might undertake to kind of get ahead of what you feel is an imminent renegotiation of USMCA or CUSMA, whatever acronym you prefer. Which of those do you think our readers should really focus on the most? Is there one or two that you think could be especially powerful in terms of resetting the conversation with the Trump administration, possibly getting us concessions on the other things that we want and need, most notably free and open access to their market?
Yeah. I mean, I think one of the some of the restrictions that hit us the most, although we don't really think about it very much, are some of the restrictions on foreign investment. And we have in the banking sector, in telecommunications, in airlines, and actually a bunch of sectors of the economy that we have essentially closed our economy to foreign investment. Even though in Canada, one of the problems that we have is that we don't have enough investment in a lot of these sectors. And we also have companies in these sectors that are charging prices that are significantly higher than you would see in the US and frankly in the UK and other countries. So on policy grounds, there would be a good argument for relaxing those restrictions. If we can go to the Americans and say, hey, look, we have these restrictions. We know that they make it difficult for your companies to come into Canada. We're willing to relax those, assuming that you're going to cut us a deal on a bunch of the other things that we want. And then I think that's win-win-win. That's a win for the Americans, and it's a win for Canadian consumers.
Well, thank you, Tim Sargent. Great to have you on the program, and always great to have your insights at the Hub, writing for us regularly with your colleague Finn Hampson.
Thanks very much. It was a pleasure.
That was Tim Sargent, Director of Domestic Policy at the Macdonald-Laurier Institute. You can check out Tim and Fenn's latest piece for us right now. It's in the Hub, www.thehub.ca. Thanks for watching the latest edition of Trump's trade war. The days are counting up and down to the end of the month, to other deadlines, to aluminum and steel tariffs. It's all happening all the time, and we've got you covered here at the Hub through this video series and on our website. We'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.